Welcome back, my friends, to the Derate the Hate podcast. I am your host, Wilk Wilkinson, your blue-collar sage, calming outrage and helping to navigate a world divided by fog and those who would spread that fear, outrage, and grievance. Each week, I'm sharing stories from my path and using the power of conversation and collaboration with my many great guests. Together, we chart a course toward understanding, bridging divides, and fostering a community where wisdom prevails over discord. Friends, it really is about bettering the world one attitude at a time. We did not create the hate, but together we can derate the hate. The only good thing about a bad attitude is we have the ability as individuals to change it. For me, it starts with gratitude and personal accountability. I am so incredibly grateful that you have taken the time to join me for another powerful DTH episode. Please remember to subscribe and share the DTH podcast with your network of friends. If you would like to support the show, check out the Support Us page on the Derate the Hate website. With that, my friends, let's get to it. Today, I have the privilege of welcoming back an award-winning filmmaker, writer, and storyteller who spent his career tackling some of the most complex and controversial issues of our time. Eli Steele is known for films like How Jack Became Black, What's Bugging Seth, and most recently, What Killed Michael Brown, a powerful and thought-provoking documentary he produced with his father, Shelby Steele. He also shares his insights on his Man of Steele Substack, where he continues challenging narratives and pushing for deeper discussions on race, identity, and the American experience. In this conversation, Eli and I dive into one of the most pressing issues facing our country today, the growing desire for revenge in our political culture and landscape. Too often, we see frustration turning into retribution, but where does that really lead us? Do we move forward as a nation by tearing each other down, or is there a better path? One rooted in accountability, responsibility, and reconciliation. We'll talk about how history has shaped the current racial and political climate, why victimhood mentality is so destructive, and how the culture of revenge only deepens division. Through the powerful tar baby analogy, we'll explore how getting stuck in anger and resentment holds us back from real progress. And of course, we'll discuss the importance of civic engagement, education, and personal responsibility in rebuilding our communities and strengthening America. This is a conversation about moving beyond identity politics, beyond blame, and beyond the toxic cycles that keep us from truly thriving. It's about building, not destroying. So stick around, my friends, for another fantastic DTH conversation with my friend, Eli Steele. Here we go. Eli Steele, welcome back to the Derate the Hate podcast, my friend. So great to see you again.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be back.
You know, I've been looking forward to getting you back on, and it was a few weeks ago I saw that you had, well, obviously, I mean, to state the obvious, there's a lot going on right now, right? Ever since Donald Trump took office again in January, the media cycle, the news cycle has not been able to keep up. Everything's been happening at a breakneck pace. Half the people don't know what's going on, and the other half, there's people pissed off. There's people that are extremely happy. There's this whole range of emotions, whole range of things that are going on, Eli. And, you know, one of the things that you've written amongst so many things that you've written in the past couple months that stood out to me, and I wanted to, have that conversation, which is why I asked you to visit with me again today, is made the statement, conservatives all over the place right now, both publicly and privately, that you've heard, you've seen. There are many of them that are screaming, we want revenge against the left. There's this feeling of angst there for the things that they've seen happen over the past several years. And there's a want and a desire on the part of many to get revenge, to get retribution. And you had said something that stood out to me because it's something I agree with, right? Right off the bat. He said, do you want revenge or do you want a better America? Because the two are different things. And that's where I want to start our conversation today, Eli, because I think it's an incredibly important statement, and it's something that people need to really reckon with that question. So do you want a better America, or do you want revenge, or do you want a better America? Because the two are, in my opinion, two different things. So let's start there.
Yeah, I'll probably just start off by saying I do understand the desire for revenge. I do understand the desire for retribution. My family went through, being canceled in the early 90s, probably around 1990, 1991. A lot of people think that this whole war started the last 4 or 5 years since George Floyd. Now it's been going on since the 70s, since the late 60s. Let's just think about how long Thomas Sowell has been around. I think he published his first book on Black education in 1975, which makes a lot of the same points that we're making today. So, yes, it is not fun to be canceled. It's not fun to have my father basically lost his job. We lost every family, every friend. But my father, to his credit, never sought revenge. He never, I never ever heard him, he was just be more disappointed. But his thing was, I'm going to move forward, I'm going to find a way forward. And he did. And he actually, it just gave him a better sense of reality, a better sense of what was going on. If he had been consumed by hatred, if he had been obsessed with, I've lost my job, if he's just been lucky, you end up looking backwards because you let that revenge consume you. And so he refused to allow that to happen. I don't know how much time we have, but actually, while I was talking, there's actually a great Black American folk tale. They call it Tar Baby. Actually a tar. And so when they Tar Baby, people think of the racist connotation, a black doll, dressed up as tar. So
Sure.
That's not what I'm talking about. That's not the real story. The real story is that there is this tar baby covered in tar. She's happy to be black, but she's covered in tar. And so the tar baby represents that one problem that bothers you. And the tar baby comes to you and says, hey, you ain't nothing. You're just this big old piece of crap. You're not going to be anything. And so you get mad. You say, what? And then you hit the tar baby. Your hand gets stuck. And then you get more mad. And so I'm going to take out this tar baby. I'm going to kill him. You hit with the other hand, you get stuck. You kick him with your foot, get stuck. The other foot gets stuck. So the metaphor of the whole story, obviously, is, hatred, revenge, all of that. What people have done to you, no matter how bad it is a tar baby. It's how do you want to live your life. You could beat that tar baby up. But that tar baby wins because that tar baby just stuck you down to it. And so people think that, and so I think that's a powerful story because that's sort of a story that my father at least took to his heart. And even me, I've lost job opportunities. I've had things happen because of, my politics were refused to go along with the racial. So I think that's why, and so I understand that. Now, so I'm be clear on that. There is a big difference between accountability and revenge. And the left has put a lot of what you want to call a race-based policy into the Bush. President Biden put DEI on the Bush. He even created watchdogs within the agency to make sure that every government agency was following the DEI principle. So they did that. And so the question is, yes, we need to remove that. Yes, we need to get rid of all of that. Yes, we need that kind of accountability. But that's different than, okay, let's go after people, let's get some revenge, let's get some stuff like that. Because when you do that, you usually will compromise the American principle. You then will create the revenge tribe. Because we say, okay, we define the enemy. That's what tribes do. So the white man can create a new tribe and say, okay, this is our new enemy. And we're going to define them this way, we're going to kill them. Okay, well, so you kill these people, and what do you get? And then now here's the thing: most of the people on the right, if you look at them, they call themselves Christian. So you're Christian. You go out and kill these people. Well, what happened to your? I mean, the greatest thing, I grew up in a Judeo-Christian household. My mother's Jewish, my father's black, and both believers. And so I grew up with the idea was that Jesus, the greatest concept he gave to the Western civilization was the concept of forgiveness, the concept of compassion, empathy, all that stuff. And so you want to go after revenge and all this stuff, because I personally know some of these people and they will call themselves Christian. And I'm thinking they're going like that. I'm not going to say that on Twitter or anything like that, but I'm like, okay, so now the you have the power. You should throw your principles out the window.
Yeah.
And so where we go with that? Because for me personally, my end goal in all of it is not revenge, but to finally, because we come from black, we never had our freedom. We never had that equal America. If we went from slavery, segregation to identity politics, we've never had that area of America where we say, okay, we're free. We should do whatever you want. If you discriminate against us, as anybody else, it would be punishable. We've never had that equal playing field. And that's where we're trying to get to. And so I'm not really interested in anything beyond accountability, upholding the law, anything that ensures that playing field is equal.
Yeah, no, and I think that's important. I mean, I think, well, so many of the things that you said there, Eli, are incredibly important in the sense that, well, first of all, let me just tell you, I had never heard the analogy or the story the way you put it, or the way your father, Shelby, put it about the tar baby, and how, each time you try to strike this doll, you get stuck now, and the more that you fight it, the more that you seek revenge against it, the more damage you're actually doing to yourself. I think that's an incredibly strong takeaway in just being able to think about that, because one of the things that I've talked about a lot on this podcast with different guests is the idea of becoming consumed by our hatred, becoming consumed by the idea of revenge, wanting retribution, and then the idea of, can we have reconciliation without retribution? One of the big things that I've talked about on this podcast, and I know it's not what you talk about necessarily, but I did see things like this come up in the comments because there are a lot of people that were hurt by the COVID divide, things that came along with the COVID divide, and many people who have watched or listened to a lot of the work that I've done know that, I'm friends with Dr. Francis Collins, former head of the NIH, and I'm also friends with Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, the next guy that's going to lead the NIH, and all the things that happened there, whether it be the pandemic itself or the government's response to the pandemic of the COVID divide, but taking this to the concept of race and people's racial identity, and the things that have happened in the past, and the things that are happening today, and people using that concept of victimhood and wanting revenge for these different things. I understand that there are many conservatives out there, again, like we said right as we were starting the show, is the things that conservatives experienced over whether it be the past 4 years, or the ugliness that happened during the first Trump term, things like that, or just all of the ugliness that led up to Trump becoming president. Because and this is where I want to get your thoughts, Eli, is one of the big things that I have seen, my life experience tells me, is one of the big reasons that we have Trump, this bombastic, hyperbolic guy that says a lot of the things that he says and now does a lot of the things that he does. One of the ways that we got him, which he's definitely out of the mainstream when it comes to your typical politicians, right? And is because there were so many people who just did not engage until they became enraged. And once they became enraged, they were looking for somebody or some entity that could help them get the revenge that they wanted. And I think people see that in President Trump, right? They see this guy. He's take no crap, he's just going to go out there. He's going to do what he says, whether you like it or not. And there are a lot of people out there. And right now, as of the day of this recording, he's getting incredible ratings because he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do at the border. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do with DEI. He's doing exactly what he said when it came to, I'm going to go through with a meat axe into the agencies within our government. And I'm going to cut out every bit of waste, fraud, and abuse. And then you've got all of these people, Eli, who are like, okay, this is fantastic. And then you've got other people who are like, okay, well, this is the kind of the stuff I wanted, but maybe not this aggressive, right? And then you've got others that are like, I don't know what the hell's going on. So we are in a weird spot right now in this. But there are a lot of people out there. There are a lot of people that think, okay, we're finally getting the revenge that we wanted. But I personally, as a conservative, somebody who's been a conservative now for as long as I've been following politics, I don't want revenge. I want accountability, like you said. I want our government to work right, the way that it was intended to work. But I don't want it. I don't want to accomplish it through the same means that got us here. I don't want everlasting executive orders. I want it done the right way. So what do you say to those people, Eli, who probably don't understand the difference between revenge and accountability, but want to see a lot of the things that were promised by Donald Trump, but maybe not the meat axe strategy?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I don't think this is the first time that we've been here. If you look through history, there's always been regime changes. There's always been that kind of stuff going on. There's been revolution. There's been all this stuff. If you look at the 60s was the 1960s in America was a very a time of great upheaval. In many ways, we are still fighting that war from the 60s because all the forces that we are dealing with today come out of the 1960s. This idea of revenge is not new. I put a line, I think, in that tweet, and I think a lot of people, it was probably maybe a little bit too insider-ish or like too much in the know in a way, but I said something like, well, Black people run out for revenge or could have run out for revenge in the 60s. And that was the big division among the Black civil rights movement, was the debate between the nonviolent and the Black power. Then you also had degrees of Black power, which was from merely saying the word Black power, which is identity politics, and then also the Black militant, the Black Panthers, all of that, which my father never became an official Black Panther, but pretty darn close to becoming one. So my father went from King all the way the whole spectrum. And so this is the guy that we sort of probably, we call the Black conservative today, which that's another topic, but there's a reason why we do that, and because he stands in opposition to the forces that come out of the sticky. So, but one point though is that we are here largely because a lot of Black people And I think there's a weaker black people. And what I mean by that, I'm making a judgment. I think there's some black people that were far smarter, like Bayard Woolston. I would even put Eldridge Cleaver in there. Eldridge Cleaver was the Black Panther who realized, wait a minute, America's not such a bad country. But Eldridge Cleaver was at the forefront of the liberation movement. He was at the forefront of that whole oppressor dynamic. My father was involved in that, all of that. He was at the forefront of that. He changed his mind. And so he should travel the world and realize that we were not such a crazy country. Eldridge Cleaver had a famous saying, which is that if you still think the same way as you did in 1968, you're in trouble. Because that was a very different time than 1975, when he changed his mind. He came back to the United States to face the charge for the police shootout. He went back into jail and got out of jail. So that was a big price that he had to pay to come back to America, which he go to jail and serve his time for that. But anyway, the reason why I'm putting that is I'm showing a man of character, a man that was struggling to understand what was going on. And you have to understand, black people in the 1960s, when they came into freedom, it was a shock. They didn't know it. Nobody gave them a manual. It's that this is how you live in freedom. Basically, white people in that time said, oh, whatever, you're on your own. Okay. Like you literally coming out of darkness, you don't have social capital. So you have pretty much nothing. And so it was a huge struggle for these blacks to understand, do we go for revenge? Or do we try to work with the system or whatever it is? And so a lot of blacks sort of did what was the hybrid academia. They worked within the system, but they brought the revolutionary ideas within the system. And they pursued revenge within the system. They pushed an ideology within the system. They started off as diversity. Had affirmative action. Affirmative action started off as something that was different, became hardcore racial preference. So things just got stronger and stronger and more concentrated. I thought that because I was having a Jewish mother and a black father, people told me growing up, your family is wonderful. Your family is exactly what America is supposed to be about. This is where we're going in the future. Then college application come, and just pick one race. And I remember, but I'm everything. And they said, no, pick one race, but particularly pick your black race. And that's when I realized, all of this is just talk. All of this is just, no, you want to get the race in there, you want the power, all that. But that was 1991. And then you should march through, get worse, and then all of a sudden, 12 morning. Then Black Lives Matter, then Michael Brown, then George Floyd. And along the stops of the way, you get systemic racism, white privilege, white fragility. You get all these ideas, respectability politics. It's just become this whole wave of ideas coming out of academia. Oh, for revenge. Oh, finally, right there, okay, we're going to put that white man inside the bar. We're going to put him inside identity politics. And we're going to lock him in there. We're going to make him the other, just like the white man made the black people the other, the minorities the other for so long. We're going to make him the other. We're going to say, how does he feel not to have that job? How does he feel? And you know what? We deserve this job because of what you white people did to us for 4 centuries. So that's revenge. So my point is, we had this whole long revenge imposed, and that's my long answer to kind of give you a sense that we are here today because of that revenge. Now you want to have more revenge. Well, to be a pretty difficult thing to be a white man seeking revenge in America, given the whole history.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a winning battle that you can have. I can understand the imposed. I can understand it, but in the long run, should be because you have to remember. I mean, we have history, and the whole point was you rescinded the history being used against you. I don't think anybody born today has to pay for the sins of the fathers. They should
No,
not. When the mothers or fathers, they should not have to
I
pay them.
agree.
Yeah. So Trump obviously, and I think he was elected to shake everything up, and there's no doubt that there is the woke right. The woke right was my father and I talked about this. We always say, wait until the white man gets trapped in identity politics.
Wait until the white man gets what?
Trapped into identity politics.
Oh, trapped into identity politics. Yeah.
Because before the white man was he was sort of outside of it. The Boston didn't mean anything to him. If anything, he supported it because it was diversity. That's okay. We should give him a little bit of something. He had no idea that the system was working to bring him into the identity politics.
Mm-hmm.
The system was wrong the whole time. And so that's why race is poison. You think you should support it a little bit. You think you should, no, it will grow and it will grow. And it will grow. And so it got eventually you got the white man into the system. And the white man went, well, you know what, you didn't stay anything when it happens to black people. You didn't stay much when it happens to black people. When they took black people and created black underclasses throughout America. And if you think about what they did to black people, they made black people have bad faith in America. The white man, the devil, all of it. That was what was happening, but you didn't do anything about that. And you didn't do anything a lot where the Asian got hit, and then the white people got stuck into it. And so a lot of the Jewish people today say, hey, it happened to us. No, you were just down the line. It went through everybody. And the Jews are now the ones that got it.
Yep. Step by step, just went through every different bucket.
I think you get the point. There should have been a Mars. That's what tribalism does. That's what race does. It's just get everybody. So with a blast, it's just my father. And he said, you don't agree with what we're doing. You're Uncle Tom. We have to throw you out of the system because you are exposing our game. You're exposing our con. I mean, all Thomas Dorrell really is doing is exposing the cons. Shelby Steele, Thomas Dorrell, Walter Williams, all they did was just say, this is what's really going on. It's a shakedown.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely a shakedown.
Yeah. I just did one last thing. My father was saying one thing. No, he was station. I mean, he said, you know what? I try and warn you. He has a piece called The Loneliness of the Black Conservative. Because he was alone. People were supporting him, but they were supporting him behind the scene. And he was just saying, you need to get up front. You need to fight. You need to get out there. And he would say one thing all the time, where were you when we needed you? Now you all of a sudden have courage because of Trump. You have courage. You didn't have the balls before. But now you have the courage because Trump had the courage to stand up there, rightly or wrongly, whatever he's doing. But what we ask for in America, he is a symptom of America. You just hit that wrecking ball. You just hit it, just swing it. We're going to pay the price one way or another. We'll win here, we'll lose here. But that's the situation. But you didn't have the courage to stand up in 1985. 1995, you didn't have the words. You hid behind the black conservatives. Now you're brave.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that's why, from my point of view, there's a little bit of hypocrisy here. It's like, it's just like, I cannot tell you how many conversations, how many conversations I've had with people where, I'm going to lose my job. Okay, well, you're talking to somebody that's lost his job. My father lost his job. And, so it's hard for me to have sympathy. Well, okay, now you are revenge. Now you are messed up. What I've been fighting for, we should not revenge, but accountability, give waste out of all government affairs. Let the ship fall where they may be. And my feeling is when you take waste out, it forces you to look American. It's not Black American, poor Black Americans over here. Poor Asians over there. They're American. What is the problem with that situation? What do we need to do to either Help them manage your issue. Get the basic services in there, get the school system up, because you can only help people to a certain extent. They have to step up. We have to stop this whole thing of lying to people and saying it's the white man's fault. It's this person's fault. It's this racism fault. We have to say, no, what are you going to do about it? Yeah, and to these white people that have been victimized, yeah, you did lose your job. You did. Well, but you know what? My grandfather, my grandparents were victimized by Hitler for 6 years. They came to America, no apologies, no nothing. The reparation was like $50 a month. That doesn't pay for losing your entire family. They didn't know English. They made work. My grandfather on my black side, he didn't ask for revenge. He only had freedom for, I think, about 10 of his 76 years on Earth. That's it. So he lived 65 years under segregation. So you may think you're being victimized and you want your revenge. You'll never be satisfied. Because just as black people never will get justice, you'll never get justice. So the best thing you do is just, what are you going to do now? Build in America. I know you don't want to hear that. But I would not support anybody who picked up the white mantle right now and says I'm a white victim. I'm just not going to support that. Yeah.
Yeah, the white victimhood. So that victimhood mentality and that seeking of revenge, that will serve nobody well, because you're right. Where does it end? It never ends. Once it starts, that path just continues on. Where you think you've done enough damage to the other side to get your due revenge, to get your pound of flesh, well, then the other side's going to start looking for revenge for what you've just done. It's a never-ending cycle. It's an ugly cycle. It's an unwinnable cycle, and we have to realize as human beings that this is not the way. I think you bring up so many very, very good points, Eli, in the sense that it's so there were so many throughout history, throughout segregation, throughout the civil rights movement. That did stand up. They did stand up at the risk of their own jobs, their own whatever things that they were able to acquire. They put it all on the line, and were saying things that were not popular. I'm glad you continue to bring up, obviously, your father, Shelby Steele, but Walter Williams, Thomas Sowell. These men are some of the most profound thinkers of not just our time, but of any time. And to go back and read, I've got a number of books by Walter Williams that I've read, and I used to enjoy listening to him before he passed. I used to enjoy listening to him when he'd fill in on certain radio shows and things like that. Just an incredible man, but the idea of working within the system. Do not seek revenge. Just incredible work. But he talks about working within the system and making the life that he wanted by working through that system. And talking about race and economics and things like that. So back to the idea of, do you want revenge or do you want a better America? Because they are two different things. And I continue to say that because it is such a profound statement. And there are so many people right now who they don't understand that. They don't understand the idea that if we start on a cycle of revenge, if we start on that footing and say, well, I'm just going to get revenge now, but then once I've got it, then we're all good. Then we're square. Then we're back to even. Now we're at some kind of baseline. It's not true. It's not true at all. And if we want a better America, we have to realize that now, accept what was, move on, and let's make America better. I don't buy into the whole make America great again thing, because in order to make America great again, you have to believe that America ceased being great. I think America is great because its people are good. They've made mistakes. They've had their downfalls. They've had their many have had their faults, and there's many stains in the history of this country. But I don't think America ever ceased being great, so I don't think we can make it great again. I think true conservatism is the idea that this country was made and put together through geniuses and divine providence. If I can do anything about it, Eli, I do not want to allow revenge and hate and those who would spread that fear, outrage, and grievance just for the sole purpose of keeping us divided. That is the worst thing that we can do. If we want a better America, revenge is not the path.
Yeah, the one thing that keeps that from being, in a way, a pretty darn good country is race. Race has been that one thing that's been there since the beginning.
It's poison, like you said.
Owners, the Constitution, the paper, and they own slaves, and they're all men are created equal. So I bring that up because the civil rights movement was a movement. Black people in the marshes, white people as well. Because if you look at the marshes, it's pretty multiracial. Wanted those boxes removed, the race boxes, because white men superior, and black men inferior. So they had to remove those boxes. So we all of a sudden have this moment, and then people are like, wait a minute, but how are we going to, we're a racial country. How are we going to prove racial discrimination? So we need to put the boxes back in. So we come up with 5 boxes. So we fit the entire population of the world, because we are a country that the world come to, and we fit them all into 5 race boxes. And so, a Vietnamese with a Chinese person, and the history of Vietnam and China, they've been historical enemies, all together in the same box in America. That's how absurd the whole system is. So we should start looking at the whole absurdity. But anyway, so all we did was we create a new form of racism. Mm-hmm. And so now we're in a situation, and I would have to say that if I have any reservations about the Trump administration, I would probably say race is the Achilles heel. If you go back to George Floyd, he lost the narrative. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to say. He was surrounding himself with fake charlatan black conservatives like Candace Owens, who is an original thinker. And so Kanye West, that's who he was surrounding himself with. So the irony was that we came out with what killed Michael Brown in October. Those George Floyd had been raging the whole summer. And they were like, oh my God, we forgot about the true black conservatives like Thomas Sowell, my father. And but by then it was too late. They lost the narrative. They lost control. They didn't know how to message. And so I see that happening a lot with these so-called, I never really think of anybody as leaders, but they are people who are making change. I see that a lot with some of these thinkers, where they are focused on DEI. And they're focused on the last 4 years or 5 years, the post-George Floyd era. And for me, that's a mistake, because race is the problem, not DEI. Race is the fundamental problem here. And if we don't understand that, what's going to happen is the compromise. Now, if you go back to history, you know that the race is always compromised. We had the Missouri Compromise. We have, after the civil rights movement, we had the compromise. They will use these race boxes to prove the discrimination. Became a whole other animal. You're going to have the people coming in and they say, I know how to do DEI right. DEI light, they call it. Well, you leave the door open again. And if I'm on the left, I'm completely on board with you for DEI light. We'll call it something else. We'll come up with another cool name. And so I think that's what, that's a big test for whether the conservative leaders, many of them who want revenge, if they really understand their enemy. I mean, there's a reason why race has come back this strong. And it is so profound, has done so much profound damage. So, for example, you want to take out the Department of Education. Well, the Department of Education basically force all the state schools, all the states and the local schools to conform to a federal sort of type of education plan. But for the most part, I mean, they have a lot of influence. Well, if you put California on their own or Illinois on their own, well, how you have oversight to change those education systems? Because, for example, in the state of Illinois, the governor appoints an education body within that state, and that education body basically decides the criteria for teachers. So every teacher that goes through, that wants to teach in the state, private, public, parochial, charter, has to go through this body to get the license. And so this body right now is woke. They're not elected official. So how do you control, how do you change that? And then not only that, a bigger problem is in those states, you've had teachers that know nothing but this. They know nothing but this ideology. They were raised on diversity. They were raised on, whatever you want to call it, identity politics, she or she, then DEI, then DEIA, or DEIB, or whatever you belonging. I mean, they've been raised on this. It's in them. It's in the air that they breathe. That's the term that they use. They literally is the air that we breathe. White supremacy is in the air that we breathe. I mean, they've said that. So how do you go in there? And so my point is they've been so profound. It has altered the way people think. If you talk to any kid who's 15 years old, they don't talk like the way I talk. They will apologize for what they're about to say. Then they say it. If they want to say something controversial, they'll be like, okay, I'm not trying to offend anybody here, but, I know I'm not, I know I'm a white person. Apology. Yeah, so it's like a land acknowledgement. It's like a personal identity acknowledgement. And so they've changed the culture. They've done this. Those Trump and these people can deconstruct. Mm-hmm. It's easy to take things apart because we now have the ability to get the data, all of that. But the question is, how are we going to build? How are we going to rebuild the rigorous, strong, rugged individual that the President Hoover talked about in that famous speech? The rugged individual, the individual that has the resilience that can overcome obstacles. That's strong American, because that's how you make a great American. How are you going to recreate that? And that's the challenge I think that we have today.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I think that's a very good point, Eli. But I gotta, there's a couple things that you said there that I would probably push back on a little bit, because I think the idea that when you talk about states like California, and you talk about states like Illinois, very, very blue, very liberal, like the state that I live in, Minnesota, right, is very well. I will say that it's very liberal in the metro area of Minneapolis, St. Paul. The rest of the state, with the exception of the Arrowhead up north a little bit, but the rest of the state is very conservative, right? So I've been talking a lot lately in my talk concept of subsidiarity and removing, controlling things that we can control at the most local of levels, trying to take and things that we do. So it used to be, states like you talked about there is, that in Illinois or in California, right? How do we, if the state board is going to determine what has to be taught, whether it be in a public school or a private school or whatever, now all of a sudden everybody that's going to teach in there has to teach these specific things. That's my big problem with the Department of Education and the concept of federal, the federal government ruling so many things from afar and whatever. The same thing kind of, I think, applies to our states. Like I said, the state in which I live, Minnesota, you got Governor Tim Walz in Minneapolis or in St. Paul there, and then the metro area is electing, the vast majority of the body of electors, and so the whole state of Minnesota is governed as if it was Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's just an ugly thing because the conservative values that the vast majority of the state geographically is not truly represented within St. Paul. The same thing happens within the United States as a whole, right? You've got the whole country, the vast majority of the country geographically and small. You've got a bunch of small pockets, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, New York, things like that. Those geographical areas that are concentrated are really making the decisions for a lot of people that really don't represent the same kind of values and things that they do. It's a huge problem, but to the point of subsidiarity, the thing that I was talking about, the more that we can take out of the hands of the federal government, the more that we can take out of these small concentration of power areas and put back in the hands of the people and work with our own communities to make our lives better again. This is another thing. I know we're way beyond our time, but one of the things that I think is so important, Eli, that I think we need to work towards as a country is the concept of government is neither the cause of nor the solution to all of our problems. And I think that's why what President Trump and the people within his administration are doing right now is very, very important. I know it sucks for a lot of people who, they've spent their life in civil service and they work for a very, very overbloated federal government, and whatever. There's going to be professional casualties in that scenario in which he starts to cut away the bloat, the fat, the corruption, whatever, and not everybody that works in a corrupt agency is corrupt. I want to make that clear. One of those that we were just talking about, right? But but so there's going to be casualties to that process in which he starts to slice away big chunks of the federal government. I get that. But in order to get this country back to what it was, and in order to get the power back in the hands of the people, and in order to get problems solved at the most local of levels where we can actually do good things as citizens and make a true civic renewal, a true make America a better America, I think it takes putting the power back in the hands of the people, and that's not going to happen with big government bureaucracies. I don't care if it's a big government bureaucracy in California or a big government bureaucracy in Illinois or Minnesota or a big government bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. We've got to put it all back in the hands of the people and start solving problems again in our own backyard. That's what's going to make America a better America, not seeking revenge, not being a bunch of assholes that are trying to take it out on the left or the right or whoever the other is today. And this us versus them, that ugly battle that always turns into is not the way to make a better America. The way to make a better America is to put the power back in the hands of the people and start taking care of problems in our own backyard and quit worrying about Washington, D.C. or Chicago or Minneapolis, St. Paul or San Francisco, LA. All right. You got the last word, man. I know we got to wrap this up. I appreciate you so much. And go ahead. I said a lot.
I think you hit on the whole solution. And I think that Trump coming in, I mean, we voted him in. He comes in, he's giving us a shot. And I think in a way, going against corruption, which were the massive amount of corruption. In fact, before I get to my main point, I got a text message from a professor in Michigan who was telling me that his friend, who is involved in the Detroit public school, and apparently is a Trumper, is complaining that this is affecting schools and so forth. And he's basically saying that this is the worst thing. But I think that, so I'm just looking at the tweet, but he's saying that the Trump thing, the Department of Education is going to collapse the system. So I wrote back to my friend that he doesn't understand one thing. The education system already collapsed. That's what we have to understand. Kids are failing. Too many kids cannot read. It has already collapsed. People that can make it out do make it out. But those that needed that extra push or that extra, wherever it is, it falls back on the parents. But teachers have been known to rescue kids that come from horrible families. And if that's not in place, well, we lose those kids too. And so he doesn't understand they've collapsed. But what has not collapsed is the pay system for the educator and for the administrators. So the school system is only succeeded in paying these people who are failing to do their job. And so I think that's the anger that you see in America. And I think that we're just talking about it goes back to the people. It's the only way this is going to work. I'm not taking anything away from Trump, but Trump is one man who's using his powers, which a lot of them are going to be challenged. But if he breaks the system up enough, it's up to us to fix it, to put it back together, to make it what we want to make it. And right now, too many of us have forgotten how to be American. We have forgotten it. We hide behind our keyboard. We hide behind other people. We say, oh, I can't do this. I'm too busy. No. You really have no voice. Just like if you don't vote, you don't have a right to talk. I really believe that. You got to vote. And even if you don't like him vote, you still got to make a decision and vote. You got to step up to your local board. You got to step up to whatever's going on, whether it's a park planning commission, whether it's the school system, whether it's voting the right judges in. You have to step up. And guess what? You start to know your neighbors better. You start talking to your neighbors instead of talking to people who live 5,000 miles away from you on a computer. Talk to your neighbor, all of that. And I think that what that does is to bring the complexity of life back in. Everything's oversimplified. It's black and white. You meet some crazy people, you meet some brilliant people, you meet some people from all walks of life. I mean, every time I go out in the community, I feel more enriched. I feel more, people are not as bad as they think they are. If you want evidence, look at my documentary, What Killed Michael Brown. Everybody that we interview in that documentary is pretty much liberal or progressive. But when you hear them talk, you don't hear that. Because we ask them different questions. And so that's why I ran through my documentary work when I go out in the world and just talk to them. I don't hear black and white. I hear complexity. I hear, the riches, the desires, the tragedies, all of that. So that's my point is just get out there, remake your neighborhood the way you want. And that's how you take hate down. And, and it's not too late. I mean, it's not too late. I mean, I know we have all this technology, we have all these excuses in the world, but the people, and that's what the country is, and that's our only hope in the long run.
Yep. So no, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of complexities. There's no true black and white. These rigid binaries, they're ugly. They create that us versus them. We got to get back. We got to do exactly what you said, Eli. Civic engagement is going to be a huge part of what we do to rebuild this country. So good to see you again, my friend. It's been fantastic. I truly appreciate you, the work that you do, and keep up all you're doing. Eli Steele, thank you so much for joining me again on the D-Rate the Hate podcast, my friend.
Thank you so much, Bill, for having me on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. So thank you. And Until next time.
Friends, if there's anything in this episode that provided exceptional value to you, please make sure to hit that share button. Share it with your friends, share it far and wide. And of course, if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe right from our website so you can get the Derate the Hate podcast sent to your email inbox every week. So this is Wilk wrapping up for the week saying get out there, be kind to one another, be grateful for everything that you've got, and remember it's up to you to make each and every day the day that you want it to be. If there is something that you would like to share with me, you can catch me on most social media platforms, or you can email me directly, wilk@wilksworld.com. With that, my friends, I am going to back on out of here, and we will catch you next week. Take care.